Now, across Texas, the issue is.
I'm Stephen Dial in Dallas.
I'm Greg Grugan in Houston.
And I'm Rudy Koski in Austin, and this is Texas, the issue is.
Texas Senator Ted Cruz is one of the most polarizing figures in Congress. You either love him or you hate him. I sat down with him at Norma's Cafe in North Dallas to talk about the mess in the House, the border, and his competition in 2024. Let's go with the elephant in the room. The drama in Congress, specifically the House. What are your thoughts on what's transpired in the last few days?
Well, look, I don't like seeing chaos in the Republican House. I think they're doing a lot of good, and so that's a mess. That being said, it looks like we're going to have a new speaker, and I hope we get someone who's a principled conservative, who is a strong conservative leader.
Do you think that rule is acceptable, that one member of Congress is able to bring up the vote? Do you think a small number of Republicans should have been able to basically kick out the Republican speaker?
Look, I think the House will figure out its rules, and one of the things that I'm staying out of the House leadership fight. I got enough fights on the other side of the Capitol and the Senate that I don't need to be in the middle of that. I think the House should have impeached Alejandro Mayorkas. You know, Mayorkas is the Secretary of Homeland Security. He's presided over the worst crisis at our southern border in history. It's never been this bad. 7.6 million illegal immigrants flooding across the border. It is hurting Texas badly. He is utterly defying the law. And I think the House should have impeached him and sent it over to the Senate for a trial. And I hope with a new speaker they'll do that.
And Mayorkas just made recent comments about saying that now there is an imminent need or threat in the Biden administration's terms, and actually is calling for some type of structure to be built.
You know, he is, and it is ironic for them to suddenly be saying build the wall. I mean, it kind of is a little jarring, but I'll be honest with you, I don't believe it. I think this.
You don't think they're going to build anything?
Oh, they may build a little bit for the TV cameras, but this administration doesn't want to stop the crisis. The reason this is happening is because Joe Biden and the Democrats want it to happen. And the fundamental problem is not wall or no wall. The fundamental problem is that when people are apprehended, the Biden administration lets them go. It's catch and release. Now, as you know, I was not a fan of Barack Obama's.
Yeah.
But I got to say, on immigration, he by and large followed the law. Other than DACA, which was a very limited population, Obama followed the law. And so when he apprehended people, he deported them. Remember, Obama deported millions of people. Remember, the left got mad at Obama. They called him the deporter-in-chief. What Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are doing, no president has ever done.
President Trump hasn't been in either debate. He's leading the polls. Is it time for some of the lower tier candidates to get out the way?
I think we've got a real primary. I am good friends with all of the candidates running. I think it is mostly a two-man race between Trump and DeSantis. And I think the voters are going to decide. And I think we'll see a real race shake out.
2024 also for you is going to be a big year.
Yeah.
You're possibly going to run against Dallas Congressman Colin Allred or San Antonio State Senator Roland Gutierrez. Who threatens you more?
Oh, look, there are a bunch of Democrats running. I guess I should take that as a compliment that all these Democrats are eager to run against me. I don't care who wins. I am completely ambivalent. Whoever wins, the Democrats have targeted Texas. Chuck Schumer has made clear that I'm his number one target in the country. So frankly, the Democrats could nominate a ham sandwich, and they're going to raise $100 million next year to try to beat me. Now, I don't think they're going to succeed. And the reason I don't think they're going to succeed is what we're doing in Texas is working. Colin Allred, you mentioned him. His first 4 years in Congress, he voted with Nancy Pelosi 100% of the time.
Do you think Colin Allred will be your challenger?
I don't know. I don't know, but it doesn't matter because any of the Democrats, you look at the Democrat Party, they all follow orders. They all just obey. And so they vote as a bloc, and whichever Democrat it'll be, they'll vote with Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren and Chuck Schumer, and they'll vote for higher taxes. They'll vote for job-killing regulations. They'll vote to destroy energy, oil, and gas in the state of Texas.
Senator Ted Cruz, thanks for your time.
Appreciate it.
We discussed a lot. Rudy Koski, what's your one word?
My word, gridlock.
Greg Rugen, what about you?
Stephen, my word is fortified.
The Fox Texas trio is back. Let's jump right in. It was a mess and a historic week in Congress. Rudy, what do you make of what happened?
Right. It was a mess. And looking forward to next week, I'm expecting another political train wreck. I think Senator Cruz is overly optimistic that any impeachment article against any member of the Biden administration, including the president himself, will ever make it to the Senate because of all the dysfunction in the GOP. That's why my word is gridlock. But it's not just for the congressional chaos that he spoke about. My word has a double meaning just for him. A few days ago, ERCOT put out a request for extra power generation this winter. If the Texas power grid falters this winter, you can bet Cruz's vacation trip during the last freeze-up power crisis, that's going to come back and haunt him. It's already going to be a political issue for the Democrats, whoever they put up in the general election ballot. But gridlock sure seems to be a good word for the senator right now.
Greg, does the drama in the House hurt Republicans more or help Democrats more?
Stephen, in my view, this is the underwhelming Republican midterm performance fully metastasized with the GOP's lunatic fringe doing what whack jobs do. Sow chaos for the sake of chaos in search of the spotlight. Any party without safeguards against internal anarchy can't help but bear the scarlet letter W for weakness. So now we as a nation have full-blown paralysis in half of the legislative branch. Not a good look for the GOP. Can the Democrats exploit the meltdown they partnered in creating? That's the big question. Hard to return to Main Street and trash Republicans for allowing a coup when you, as Democrats, teamed up with the suicide bombers to bring it about. Tell me I'm wrong.
Hey, all right. Rudy, Ted Cruz pounced on the border topic when I brought it up. The Biden administration now saying there needs to be some type of structure built. Is it too little too late?
Well, I think the senator is right. If the Biden handlers don't backtrack on the announcement, I expect if anything goes up by federal contractors, what goes up will be limited and more political smoke and mirrors. Remember, Governor Abbott is still having some wall sections built himself, and the Biden administration's lawsuit against Abbott's border buoys, that's still active. Secretary of State Blinken was also in Austin Wednesday, and he was still pushing Biden's amnesty idea for undocumented migrants. So, anything goes, right?
Greg, can President Biden salvage this topic on the border?
I don't see how. Even with a polarizing Donald Trump at the top of the ticket, let's face it, Joe Biden has done exactly what Republicans said he would do 3 years ago. He has opened the border to millions of uninvited immigrants, and he's attacked fossil fuel production, the Lone Star State's #1 industry and source of generational wealth. In the last statewide election, every Texas Democrat was drubbed by double figures or better. That despite a statewide abortion ban, which should have fueled progressive turnout, but didn't. Biden's border czar still hasn't laid eyes on the Rio Grande, and to top it off, the president is seeking a national ban on semi-automatic rifles. Stephen, even Rudy can see that's a bridge too far.
All right, this question is for you both. Ted Cruz says it doesn't matter who he faces next year. Democrats are already at a disadvantage. Rudy, you first. Do you think the border issue is just going to mess Democrats any chance of a Democrat beating Ted Cruz?
Yeah, I think Greg's wrong here. I think that there's a lot of political wiggle room to play, mainly because the GOP is looking a lot like the New Orleans Saints from the paper bag wearing days of the 1970s. Dysfunctional, finger pointing, name calling, and finding ways to grab defeat out of victory. If that's not troubling enough for Cruz and other Republican leaders, the better hope the power grid doesn't lock up this winter, right?
Greg, go ahead, man.
Yeah, given the state's demographics, I'm guessing Cruz would rather face an African American with limited name ID than a Latino tacking to the middle. Regardless of which Democrat prevails in what's likely to be an expensive primary, attracting 100 million seems far-fetched, given that Team Blue will be defending many vulnerable Senate seats across the country.
All right, that's all the time we have. To see this episode or any of our past ones, go to our station's YouTube channels.
and keep this conversation going by reaching out to us on our social media.
Okay, special session starting next week with lots of hard feelings in play. We'll be covering it. In the meantime, you tell us what you think the issue is.